Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Amanda. I'm a hand embroidery artist, and in today's tutorial I'm going to share with you how I thread painted this acorn. This tutorial was in collaboration with the Embroiderers Guild of America. You can find the full instructions, including a color list, traceable design, and step-by-step instructions on their website, and I'll link it in the description. Now let's get started. To start out, I split stitch along the edge of the acorn. I like to do this sometimes for shapes that I want to fill in super neatly. I'm using one strand doing a back split stitch. This split stitch line will be stitched over top of, and it serves as kind of a guideline as well as a little bit of padding that will help to create a smoother edge along the stitches. Then I'm filling in the bottom of the acorn with a dark brown color, and I'm just filling it in with long and short stitches, making sure to overlap on top of that split stitch outline. Now I'm going in with a medium brown color along the sides of the acorn, and I'm making sure that I'm overlapping these stitches well into the darker stitches so that they blend a little bit together. Don't worry if these don't blend super well together, because I'm gonna go in with a color that's more in the middle, in between these two colors, to add a little bit more blending later. I'm going in towards the middle of the acorn now with the lightest brown color, again using long and short stitches and overlapping into the stitches along the bottom. At this point, I'm going in with that intermediary color, and I'm just making some long and short stitches in between those two colors. This will just blend the colors a little bit better. It makes the transition a little bit more subtle. I love adding a pop of texture into my thread painting, so I'm going to go in with a basket weave stitch. I'm using two strands and I'm using two different colors, one darker color and one lighter color, to make this basket stitch, and I'm working it at a slight diagonal. This stitch is a lot easier with a tapestry needle once you get to the point where you need to weave in and out of the stitches. And once you do, you just want to make sure that you're going under and over the stitches, and then each stitch after that, you'll do the opposite of the way you weaved the stitch before. I like to start in the center when I do these diagonally because I think it sets me up to have a uniform direction for all of the stitches instead of working from right to left or left to right. If you find there's a little bit of white space between the stitches, that's totally fine because I'm going to go in with a split stitch using a darker brown just to add a little bit of visual separation between the top of the acorn and the bottom. Next, I'm using a dark brown and that lightest brown for the stem of the acorn. And then we'll move on to the leaf. I first like to stitch the veins of the leaf. These will be light green and they won't be stitched over. I like to do this first, that way I don't lose the design when I'm filling in the leaf. Next, I'm going to be split stitching the outline of the leaf, and this will be mostly covered up. Similarly to how we filled in the acorn and overlapped on top of those stitches, most of this outline will get covered up except for the very top edge. So I'm using a dark green. It doesn't really matter what color you use, but I do plan to add a little bit of shading to the top with that dark green, so that's why I chose that particular color to use. And now we're just going to be filling in this leaf with different shades of colors. I like to start out along the very top edge here, which I guess is technically the bottom of the leaf, but I'm basically filling this in with long and short stitches using a dark green color, and I'm filling it in parallel to the way the little veins are diverging from the main stem of the leaf. And each side will be like this. So the stitches will be relatively uniform on each side, but I just like to think about following that as a guideline. Now I'm going in with a lighter shade and I'm just overlapping ever so slightly into that darker shade. I'm gonna go in with another color on top of this area to transition it better, so don't worry if it's not blending super well. And remember at this point that you're going to want to overlap on top of the split stitched outline of this leaf as you go along. You can use a variety of different shades of green to fill in a leaf. I think it looks a lot more interesting when you use a couple of different shades in a leaf. I selected some that were pretty different in value in order to make it look a little bit more lifelike and three-dimensional. But the biggest thing that you want to keep in mind is that you have colors that are different enough that they add a lot of contrast, but also close enough in color that you can blend them when you want to blend them together subtly. I didn't love the transition between the really light yellow green and the more medium green, so I'm going in with an intermediary color and just stitching in between those colors again, just to transition them better. Finally, I'm adding a little bit of shading around where the acorn is against the leaf, just to add a little shadow. And then this is all done. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Thank you so much, EGA, for collaborating on this. And if you enjoy these kind of tutorials, please consider subscribing to my YouTube and check out a bunch of my exclusive tutorials on my Patreon. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.